Well, hundreds of women took to the streets of Istanbul to protest against femicide following a string of violent killings. Demonstrators accused Turkey's president of failing to address violence against women and girls. Last week, a man beheaded a 19-year-old woman and threw her head from a building in front of her mother. He butchered another young woman to death a short time earlier. Violence against women is widespread in Turkey. There have been around 300 victims of femicide there so far this year. Let's cross now to Turkey, where DW's Turkey correspondent Julia Han has been following these protests. Julia, great to see you. So tell us more about the murders that have led to these protests.
Well, cases of women being harassed, attacked or murdered are making the headlines here in Turkey almost every day. So it's fear, it's outrage that are driving people onto the streets. But the recent protests here in Istanbul and other Turkish cities have been triggered by some particularly gruesome cases. Just last weekend, two young women were very brutally killed. Here in Istanbul, you just mentioned some of the details. The suspect, reportedly a former boyfriend, took his own life after the killings. Last month, an 8-year-old girl was found dead, murdered in southeastern Turkey, and her body disposed of in a bag near a river. The suspects are family members. Then there are cases just a few days ago where CCTV footage circulates on social media. A woman being sexually harassed by two men here in the Istanbul city centre. They only stopped up after other people stepped in trying to help her. And the list of cases just goes on. One monitoring group puts the number of women murdered this year already to nearly 300. There are another 160 suspected killings. Cases where the reason of the women's death is not entirely clear. These numbers are shocking, it's intolerable, and it's sending the message that women here in Turkey are not safe.
Shocking indeed, Julia. What's the government doing to prevent violence against women?
Well, they are not doing enough. That's what protesters are saying, what women's rights groups are saying. President Erdogan this week came forward in response to the protests. He said he would toughen the justice system and crack down on crime. But the thing is, many women here in Turkey, they don't see Erdogan and his government as the solution, but rather as a part of the problem. He pulled Turkey out of the so-called Istanbul Convention, an international treaty by the Council of Europe on preventing violence against women, a legal layer that obliges national authorities to go after these cases of violence against women. But Erdogan withdrew from this treaty back in 2021, arguing that it goes against traditional family values, that existing Turkish laws were enough. But activists say they are not enough. They're often not being implemented well enough. Some men, for example, perpetrators, are being released early from jail if they show some sort of remorse. And for their wives, girlfriends, women around them, it means they might come back after them.
Julia, you've reported on this topic quite often from Turkey. What's your impression? Do you see an improvement in the situation?
No, unfortunately, I don't. Turkey has struggled for years to contain this issue of violence against women, femicides. Some say it's patriarchal conservative values that play a role here. Others say it's the economic crisis, a crisis of social justice, a broken legal system. I think there are many factors contributing to this. What I think has improved is public awareness. There are many brave women's rights groups that are raising the alarm, that are making these cases public, that are documenting them in order to increase pressure on the government to act. They are taking to the streets despite their protests often being banned by the authorities. They themselves risk being detained, but they find ways of making their voices heard, be it spontaneous demonstrations, social media campaigns. They are really determined not to be silenced.
Thanks, Julia. DW's Turkey correspondent Julia Han in Istanbul for us.